What's going on, Trash Talkers? We got a great episode for you today. We will be breaking down the Week 3 power rankings for the NFL, and we've got some big surprises in store, so stay tuned. All that and much more coming your way right now. What's going on, Trash Talkers? We had some big games in Week 2, and moving into Week 3, our power rankings have completely shifted. We've got some massive surprises, so let's get right into it. All right, so getting right into it, we have at 32 the Jacksonville Jaguars and at 31 the Detroit Lions. And I want to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars just real quick. Trevor Lawrence, he has been really struggling so far. 5 interceptions in the first 2 weeks. This offense that has all these weapons, James Robinson, DJ Chark, Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, they just can't get it going with the number 1 overall pick, Trevor Lawrence. For some reason, it's not clicking. Is it Urban Meyer? Is it Trevor Lawrence? Maybe it's a little bit of both. But all I know is they are struggling big time, and they find themselves once again at the bottom of the league. Moving on to 30 through 21, we have the Atlanta Falcons, the Houston Texans, the Philadelphia Eagles, the New York Jets, the New York Giants, the Chicago Bears, the Cincinnati Bengals, the New Orleans Saints, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Minnesota Vikings. And I really want to talk about the New Orleans Saints. Man, what a drop-off they had in Week 2 after having such a crazy win over the Packers where they dominated them in Week 1. They come back in Week 2 to get absolutely shellacked by their divisional opponent, the Carolina Panthers. It wasn't even close. The score may have gotten a little bit closer towards garbage time, but it really wasn't even a fair shake for the New Orleans Saints. We saw just how little their weapons are, just how little they have to work with on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, I expected them to shine still. They were lights out in Week 1, and although Marshawn Lattimore was out for this game, they did have new acquisition Bradley Roby. He just did not play up to Marshawn Lattimore's level, and we saw that with DJ Chark and Robbie Anderson getting wide open for Sam Darnold. Big loss for the New Orleans Saints. I don't know if they can turn this thing around. This is honestly where I expected them to be at this point in the season. I thought that their roster was just missing too many weapons, especially without Michael Thomas. This team is just headed in the wrong direction. But I do want to talk about the Minnesota Vikings as well. They move up on our leaderboard this week 1 spot as they had a fantastic game against the Arizona Cardinals. They almost won it. They almost squeaked it out, but if it wasn't for their kicker, Greg Joseph, they would have been a little bit higher on this list. Nonetheless, they did make some progress. Big comeback from Week 1 where they got beaten over time by the Cincinnati Bengals. This is more what I expect from the Minnesota Vikings. I expect them to be able to handle playoff contenders like the Arizona Cardinals. I expect them to be able to have a solid pass rush with Danielle Hunter there, and for those linebackers to be an absolute threat for the opposing quarterback. I do need to see improvement, though, from the secondary. Can they hold up to some of the bigger passing attacks in the league? Because Kyler Murray still had 4 touchdowns in Week 2. And we need to see that this Vikings defense can get a stop once in a while. Kirk Cousins had a fantastic game. I want to see him continue this. Dalvin Cook looked great. I just wish the injuries weren't showing up as soon as they are. All right, and moving on, 20 through 11, we've got some massive changes here. The Denver Broncos coming in at 20. Then we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Indianapolis Colts, the Washington Football Team, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Carolina Panthers, the Tennessee Titans, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Miami Dolphins coming in at 11. Big changes here. None bigger, though, than the Las Vegas Raiders getting their second big win this season, 2-0 to start the year, this time defeating the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road. a massive victory. They proved a ton once again. Not only are they able to stop a rushing attack with Lamar Jackson, but now they've shown they can stop a massive receiving attack. When you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, massive, massive, massive weapons in the passing game. And these are some young corners for the Las Vegas Raiders. We saw a lot. They held them to very few big plays, just a couple here and there, but nothing that the Raiders weren't able to come out on top on. And then the Las Vegas Raiders offense, Derek Carr looking better than ever. Finally seeing other receivers than Darren Waller, Bryan Edwards getting to the mix, Henry Ruggs going deep. I love to see it. I love to see how dynamic this offense can be, and that's without Josh Jacobs. I think that the Raiders are the Cinderella story so far this season, and I believe that this is just the beginning for them. On a bad note, though, I do need to talk about the Miami Dolphins. They just had some bad luck in week 2 against the Buffalo Bills. Tua Tagovailoa going down with that rib injury. It looks like he will be able to return next week. We need to see just how much he is able to handle that pain. And this is going to hurt the rest of the offense. Myles Gaskin, he's going to have some tough times finding some open lanes in the run game. We're going to see Devonta Parker and Jalen Waddle struggle if Tua can't find that deep ball, or if Jacoby Brissett is taking over. He has not had many first-team reps, and I'm very interested to see how he's going to perform if he's called upon in week 3. And then for the defensive side of the ball, this is supposed to be one of the better secondaries, but Stephon Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders, they were getting open against Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. These are supposed to be two of the top corners in the league. I didn't see that on Sunday. I want to see a lot more from these two. I want to see a lot more from this defense. Brian Flores is supposed to be one of the better defensive-minded head coaches in the league, and his defense gave up 35 points in this divisional matchup. I don't like to see it. I think there's too much for them to improve on, enough to knock them out of the top 10. And now moving on to the top 10, we start off with number 10. Still, the New England Patriots. Mac Jones looked decent in week 2 against the New York Jets. That pass rush was coming strong. The offensive line for the Patriots, for the most part, held up. The run game looked great for the Patriots, and the defense looked absolutely stellar, putting a New York Jets quarterback right where they belong, making him see ghosts, making him run into their offensive line. That's what we expect in one of these divisional matchups, and that's exactly what we got. Zach Wilson throwing 4 interceptions to the defense, a lot of it his own doing, but some of it also has to do with the positioning and the timing of the secondary, how well they are turning around from that week 1 misfortune against the Miami Dolphins. I really like the Patriots' direction right now. I think that they still have a lot more to prove, but I think after you take everything into consideration, having Mac Jones start the season as a rookie quarterback, they have looked pretty damn good, and I like what they're doing. Moving on to number 9, we have the Green Bay Packers, and yeah, they faced the Detroit Lions on Monday night, and they had a fairly easy time in that one. But I believe that the Green Bay Packers learned a lot in that week 1 matchup. They learned just how much work they have ahead of them, and they showed it just in week 2, how much they're willing to put in that effort. They're going to continue this. They're going to continue to be one of the best teams in the NFC. They were the number 2 team last year. They're not there just yet, but I think that they still have the potential to be one of the top teams that we see coming out of the NFC. Moving over to number 8, we have the Seattle Seahawks, who lost an unfortunate game against the Tennessee Titans, but it looked really good from start to finish overall. The defense is where they really have some work to do. I think that Jamal Adams and Bobby Wagner are great weapons to have. But when you deplete your secondary, specifically the cornerbacks, as much as they did this offseason, you're going to expect this to happen. You're going to expect Julio Jones and A.J. Brown to get open. You're going to expect them to have big games against you. And now you're putting a lot of pressure on Russell Wilson and the rest of the offense to carry the load. We saw just how that's going to work out for them. I think the Seattle Seahawks are always going to be better than we expect them to be, just because they have one of the best coaches in the NFL in Pete Carroll, and Russell Wilson is at the helm for them under center. Russell Wilson is always going to be able to clutch it out for them if he's given the opportunity. Unfortunately, he was not in week 2, but I think that they are still one of the top teams in the NFL. At number 7, we have the Buffalo Bills, and this position is truly justified after that absolutely monstrous blowout against the Miami Dolphins. The Buffalo Bills offense looked great. Stephon Diggs getting back into action. I like to see Emmanuel Sanders getting worked into this offense even more, taking over that John Brown role. And Devin Singletary looking better than ever. I really like the way he's running. Zach Moss, too. I think this rushing attack is finally coming to fruition, and that means the offense is more deadly than we've ever seen them. On the defensive side of the ball, they held this offense to 0 points. And yeah, they lost Tua during the game, the Miami Dolphins did. But the Buffalo Bills were able to hold them to no points while he was out there with Devontae Parker and Jalen Waddle. I think that's saying a lot. I think that's a big improvement over what we saw in week one, where they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that the Buffalo Bills are right back on track, right where they belong as one of the top teams in the AFC. Number 6. I had some issues with this one because I really wanted to move them up in my rankings, but the Baltimore Ravens come in at number 6. A spectacular win against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. What an amazing game. Lamar Jackson really looked good running the ball, throwing the ball. I love those jump passes. Very fun to watch. I really like the way this defense plays too. Going up against stellar competition like Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. They gave up some deep plays, but they know how to stay strong. Bend, but don't break. That is the mantra that every team needs to follow. That is how the Baltimore Ravens were able to come out on top in week 2. And I think that with John Harbaugh still leading this team, with Lamar Jackson still improving each and every week, I think that the Baltimore Ravens have a lot of potential to push the Kansas City Chiefs at the end of the season. At number 5, we have the Los Angeles Rams, who had a very close victory over the Indianapolis Colts, where we saw this defense kind of take a nosedive a little bit, right? Aaron Donald had his matchup set for him against Quentin Nelson, the matchup we were all excited to see, and it was a pretty 50-50 battle. Aaron Donald getting pressures, but not too many sacks. The big surprise for me is going to be Jalen Ramsey and how he did not perform up to my expectations against Michael Pittman. I know they were running a lot of zone and mixing in some man here and there, but I'm going to expect the guy who has the number 1 cornerback label on him to play like the number 1 corner. I didn't see that. I want to see some more. I know this offense is just so absolutely stellar that they're going to have a tough time losing any game, but I want to know if they can beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when it comes time for the playoffs. Moving over to number 4, we have the Cleveland Browns getting a very slim victory over the Houston Texans. And if it weren't for Tyrod Taylor going down with his injury, I believe that this game might have been a lot closer than we anticipated. The Cleveland Browns, a very young team, a lot of new weapons. And this is what we see every year when teams have a lot of new weapons. It takes them time to get going. But this defense, it's figuring itself out throughout games. They just need to be a little bit more consistent, and same for the offense. Baker Mayfield got hurt in this one, came back. I'm glad he did because he led them to a stellar victory. I really want to see this rush game get back to what it used to be. They're trying to throw the ball more than they have in the past. Now with Jarvis Landry out of the picture, we got to see whether they want to continue passing the ball as heavy as they were or fall back on this rushing attack like we know them to do. Still some questions for them to answer, but I think they're starting to figure things out, and I like the direction they're headed in, and that's why they're here at number 4. Up next, we have the Arizona Cardinals at number 3, getting a very close victory over the Minnesota Vikings, a game where they probably should have lost, but they got a little bit lucky here as Greg Joseph missed that field goal, and they were able to edge this one out at home. A big victory, now 2-0, and they are vying for that divisional title with the Los Angeles Rams right now. The Arizona Cardinals, still one of the most stacked rosters in the NFL. As long as Kyler Murray's there, this team's going to put up at least 21 points a game. That defense, J.J. Watt, took a little bit of a fall in week 2, but I think that he is so elite that he's going to find his way back. Chandler Jones, same situation. Didn't have 5 sacks, didn't have a single sack. I think that Chandler Jones also needs to be a little bit more consistent, but he is one of those elite players, and he'll find his way back. The secondary, this is where we're going to have some issues. Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, and KJ Osborne getting massive touchdowns over the secondary. This is where it scares me. I want to see the secondary improve because right now, if they were to face the Los Angeles Rams or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're not winning a game. They need to show that they can stop some big air attacks, and it starts with the Minnesota Vikings. I didn't see that. I want to see them improve. I know losing Malcolm Butler right before the season started hurt, but you got to find your way back. You've got to find a way to get the job done. And these guys in the secondary really got to step up and try to make a name for themselves. Moving into number 2, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. And yeah, they lost that game, that thriller against the Baltimore Ravens. But it was a very close game against a very tough opponent that knows them very well. The Kansas City Chiefs tend to fall early in the season. They tend to have this type of game, but they're one to consistently play at an elite level on offense and defense. They will find their way back. Andy Dalton, one of the best offensive minded coaches in the league, he's going to get this team back to where they should be. I really want to see this defense improve a little bit. The secondary, they've been playing lights out for the last couple years as one of the youngest secondaries in the league. But now we saw their youth shine through in this matchup, and we saw the Baltimore Ravens get the best of them. I think that they have a little bit of work to do, but it's something that they have done in the past, something they have worked through, and I know they're going to be able to do it once again heading into week 3. Finally, you guessed it, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here at number 1, playing another unbelievable game in week 2 against the Atlanta Falcons, who they absolutely trounced. They kind of gave a glimmer of hope, letting them come within 3 just to blow the lead wide back open, destroying the Atlanta Falcons. This defense, the secondary, they continue to lose some key guys. Sean Murphy-Bunting's already out. Carlton Davis going out with injuries. But I believe that the guys who are replacing them are starting to make a name for themselves as well. I want to see this defense completely hold together. I don't want to see them give up leads to the Atlanta Falcons, because if they're doing that to the Atlanta Falcons, we only know what's going to happen to the Los Angeles Rams or the Arizona Cardinals. So I want to see a little bit more consistency. That has been the key throughout this power rankings. Consistency is going to bring you a very long way. They have some work to do, but I like the direction they are headed in. There's nothing really to say about this offense, as Tom Brady throwing 5 touchdowns. The rushing attack, it doesn't need to be existent with Tom Brady still quarterbacking this team. They're going to be able to score at any point in time that they wish, and there's not a team out there that can stop them. So let me know in the comments what you guys think, who you guys think should be higher on our list, who you think should be lower on the list. Let us know in the comments. All right, guys, that'll be all from me. Mike will be back tomorrow, so you don't have to worry there. That'll be all. Peace and love.